and a good Wednesday afternoon to all. This is, thank you to the non-existent studio audience. But this is Steve with On the Ring Apron, a subsidiary of Mania Club. Welcome to the Plate Exchange. Here we are the first of two episodes, two fingers, that are going to be doing a show today. The ladies are going to be on here immediately following me to discuss a pair of situations with a little bit of three-way relationships as they head into SummerSlam. We're calling it SummerSlam Triangles, where they're going to discuss the current lead-ups and eventual what they believe is going to happen in the stories between Drew, Seth, and CM Punk on one side, and then also Rhea, Liv Morgan, and Dom Mysterio on the other side. I'm sporting the Dom stash to the best of my ability. What do you think? Should we keep it? Should we let it go? This is staying, so don't bother talking about that. But either way, you know, we're gonna sit here and I love the cheesy sound effects they can throw in this thing now. But either way, let's go ahead and get to the Plate Exchange because we've got a lot to talk about, and also I want to make sure the ladies are getting proper time. Let's go ahead and keep the lights on first. That was supposed to be a little more dramatic, but Racetrac is bringing us this episode today. We were able to go over and snag a drink just before we got started. This used to be a slushie. As you can see, it is not anymore. Now it's been melted down, and now I just have Mountain Dew, which is still delicious on its own. So if you go to Racetrac, you can get these for $1. If you're a member, just type in your phone number. Easy money, free drinks. A lot of times we skip the drinks at, you know, whenever we go out to eat or something to make it a little bit easier. If you're in our chat, be sure to drop some likes as well as also comment what's going on. We're going to be talking about a number of different title changes that have happened over the last couple of weeks. And we definitely want to make sure that we have your opinion because the more you guys talk to us, the more we have to be able to work things out. So let's definitely hop right to it. Yeah, I can tell I'm going to have a blast using those things. But first of all, let's go ahead and talk about NXT first of all. We have two major championships that have changed hands, although one is still relatively new. So let's talk about that one first, and that is the addition of the newest mid-card championship, which is the NXT Women's North American Championship, which was won in a fatal was won in a six-pack challenge ladder match in Las Vegas to ultimately lead to the inaugural champion Kelani Jordan climbing the ladder and winning. I was there wearing this very same green Mania Club jersey. Can't miss me. And I have forever been known as hashtag KelaniGuy ever since that happened. But I think short of Carmelo Hayes, I might be her #1 supporter. She's done wonders considering she's been in the business for less than a year. It's amazing what Kelani has been able to accomplish up to this stage, and I wish her nothing but the best as she continues on in the first championship reign in NXT as their first ever women's mid-card champion. We do not have the Women's North American Championship quite yet. It is in the works, but as anybody who's been on the shop knows, they're on pre-order and unfortunately have not been able to get the write-ins to meet to be able to pick one up a little bit early. However, we have gotten early access to her plates. So Kelani Jordan, let me see if I can get you a decent look here at it. Sometimes the lighting's not that great, but it's just her, Kelani Jordan, in her standard writing in terms of the logo that she uses. But we do have full intention of taking, doing an unboxing video and showing off these plates as soon as we do properly have them. But we do have the Kelani Jordan plates ready to rock and roll. We will take photos of these when the show is over. So anybody that's following our different social medias, they're all right down there in the comments. Hey, I got the left-right thing figured out now. But they're over there. We're on X. We're on TikTok, of course, because you're watching. We're on Hive, Instagram, Facebook. And also, as we've mentioned, we are now on Cameo. So if you've got a birthday shout-out or something that you'd like to have for a friend, or just want us to do something funny or something silly, we're happy to do so. We love doing things for our fans. Got our first one the other day, so we're definitely looking for the opportunity to be able to spark our camera love a little bit. But let's move to the other championship that has changed hands in NXT, and this one we can do a plate exchange on, and that was the very surprising move to have Trick Williams drop the NXT Championship without being pinned or submitted, as ultimately he falls in a fatal four-way match that would also involve Shawn Spears, Javon Evans, and the now new NXT champion, All Ego Ethan Page. Now, Page, of course, part of the TNA, NXT kind of crossover work that they're doing between the two respective companies, and we've had the capacity to be able to get Ego's plates very soon after he ultimately ended up winning them. So we do have our replica NXT Championship here with our Trick Williams plates still on there. So we get a good look at those before we go ahead and do the official exchange here. Trick Williams, of course, a guy who has definitely put himself in the conversation for the workhorse for WWE and for NXT, and is definitely getting the push that I think a lot of people hope for. But ultimately, we do have the updated new plates of our new champion, and that is All Ego Ethan Page. Let's get you a good look at those real quick. Both plates are the same, so nothing special to see there. But ultimately, a very unique perspective because you have the special like six-sided shape of the black in the middle. So I really enjoyed getting a chance to take a good glimpse into this one and see what it's all about. But let's go ahead and begin our plate exchange and go ahead and see what it's going to look like as we now enter what is now known as the All Ego era, as Trick Williams tries to work his way back into another championship match. Now, what I'm curious and what I'd love to open up for our live audience as well as anybody else that is watching later on YouTube. And first of all, if you're watching this, tomorrow or in the future on YouTube, you need to follow us on our TikTok because that's where we're doing our live shows at. So definitely want to make sure that you have every opportunity to see these at the earliest time and also be able to interact with us. But for those that are in our chat right now, we definitely want you guys to throw in your 2 cents. But how are you feeling so far? Not just necessarily about Ethan Page winning the NXT Championship, but also the overall play of the TNA stars coming over to NXT and vice versa. So far, we've seen, well, of course, the big one being Joe Hendry. Of course, we all believe in Joe Hendry. Go see our cameo setup if you want to watch a good little bit of comedy there. But then you've also seen the Impact champion for the women's side, Jordan Grace. We've seen Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame both go over to TNA to wrestle matches against Jordan and a couple of others. Have been dealing with the storyline with Jordan and with Ash by Elegance. So we're definitely thriving right now with this new perspective of the TNA superstars getting an opportunity to come over to NXT and show what they can do. The Trick Williams plates officially are off our championship belt, and now we're going to put on the Ethan Page plates. You can see here the grunt of disapproval from, I believe it was Alyssa in the background. Let me hang on. Let me see if I can make this work here. Just they've added sound effects. I'm gonna have so much fun with this.
Oh God!
You can already hear it. Just see. Yeah, I mean, it's very nice things, but, I love the fact that we get the beta versions to these TikTok studios early. But, I'm curious to get the opinion of this. So far, I'm having a blast. Of course, the joy of, potentially getting to see Joe Hendry on any, given night. And it looks like, as he stated on NXT yesterday, he says he likes it on NXT and planning on sticking around for a while. I am curious to see who Hendry will have his first singles feud with. So far, he's only appeared in 2 matches. He was eliminated first in the #1 Contenders Battle Royal that ultimately was won by Javon Evans, but then he teams with Trick Williams to beat Shawn Spears and Ethan Page last week. And leading into Great American Bash coming up here in a couple of weeks, it'll definitely be curious to see how that plays itself out. So, but we definitely want to get your opinion. So if you've got any thoughts on the matter, do we think Trick was done properly? Do we think that this is maybe the setup for him to get a post-SummerSlam curtain call? What do you think? But As I stated already, I think that the whole TNA, WWE thing and the, quote-unquote forbidden door being opened has definitely led to both sides benefiting. There are some naysayers that are saying that WWE is just using this to fleece the TNA people away from AEW. I don't know how much truth there is to that being a legitimate thing, but I do feel that it definitely plays a role in it. That, if you've got an opportunity to already see, can you get over in the NXT or WWE universe? Will it work out? And ultimately, is this going to be just an NXT thing, or are they eventually going to spread it out to the main roster? I'm just going to say for the record, just my personal opinion, but I've got a feeling I'm not alone on this. If ultimately they do have the main roster convert over to TNA for a match or two, it's got to be AJ Styles, right? I mean, it has to be Styles that, it's going to end up being the first one to go over with his history of his time in TNA prior to coming over for WWE. But with that, the plate exchange is complete for our first of two titles. And the all-ego Ethan Page plates now adorn our NXT Championship. Definitely I think a lot of people thought maybe a questionable move by Shawn to put the championship on a person that's relatively new. It's not unheard of. Kevin Owens winning it just 60-some-odd days after joining the main roster himself, or joining the NXT roster himself. Page would ultimately eclipse that by almost 3 weeks, winning it in only his 41st day on the official roster. So, congratulations, whether you like him or not, and whether you like the way that it happened of him literally falling into the NXT Championship. But at the end of the day, he is the NXT Champion, and our plates will reflect that until he is defeated by either Trick Williams or a subsequent challenger in the future. So, with that being the case, we move on to the second part of our plate exchange extravaganza here before we move into Pour the Tea and making sure that you guys stick around. We're going to break for maybe 15 or 20 minutes after my show's done here, and then we're going to get the ladies talking about their SummerSlam triangles. We had a episode last week about Liv Morgan and whether we feel that she is an appropriate role model for young girls considering the new persona and the new story that she's been asked to be a part of for the last several months. Does she fit well or does she not? And ultimately we've got to figure out whether, she is going to continue to be viewed by girls who have basically spent their entire childhood and maybe into their young adult years emulating Liv Morgan, but now is it appropriate to do so with her persona of her basically chasing, a man and trying to essentially burn down what Rhea has created. And also, we're going to discuss Rhea's reaction. Rhea's back. She's obviously angry, but it seems like she maybe has set up a truce with Dominic. But the ladies will have the floor for this one, so I'm just, throwing my 2 cents in there. But if you check this out, stick around for about 20 minutes after, and we'll definitely get that in. And if you're watching this later, just, find it in our other videos and, take a click. But they've got a lot of good things, and it's always nice to get a woman's perspective on these types of storylines as well, because as much as we hate to say it, it is still predominantly a male-based opinion. So, while, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that, it's just the way that it falls. So to have 2 women and also 2 minority women being able to give their thoughts on this is definitely provides a different perspective than the usual stuff you're hearing. I'm anxious to hear where their side goes on this as well. But let's move to the main roster. 2 title changes have happened since then. Let's first discuss the one that we cannot do anything with right now, and that is on Monday Night Raw. We do have new World Tag Team Champions in the form of the Judgment Day. Now, we have already discussed in our last episode, we discussed DIY winning the WWE Tag Team Championships on SmackDown. They don't have their plates yet. Possibly could change in the next, 2 days or so, but we'll have to see. But ultimately, the Judgment Day, more specifically, Finn Balor and JD McDonagh winning the championships after Liv Morgan essentially tricked R-Truth into putting his and Miz's World Tag titles on the line. So the Judgment Day officially wins the championship for the second time, and due to the new world title plates that they have, they're able to put side plates, and they become the first team to actually get a set of side plates. It is just the generic, Judgment Day setup and whatnot, so nothing, too out of the ordinary, but it was curious to see where they're going to create one for the team, because Finn Balor has previously won multiple championships and has multiple versions of his plates. And also at the same time, Jade McDonagh, a former cruiserweight champion who had plates when he was still the Irish Ace from several years ago. So, it's not unprecedented for, the two of them to use their singles plates, but ultimately they chose to go with the team plates, which I guess makes sense with it being in the tag team division. But we do not have the World Tag Team titles yet, nor the WWE titles. The pre-order on those is only about a month from now before that's over. We are on the pre-order list for all of the belts that we're missing. So kind of crossing our fingers that, somebody up there with the WWE will perhaps get them to us a little bit sooner. They were able to score us early 2 years ago with Roman Reigns' new belts, as well as his new plates. Seth Rollins' new plates for the World Heavyweight title when they came out. And, of course, we're blessed with the side plates whenever they become readily available. Essentially, the group gets theirs, and then we're usually pretty close behind. So plates come in all the time, and that's why I'm able to have a show. But we will have those ready to go. So when the Judgment Day, when we receive the World Tag Team titles, we'll get some photos on our social medias again down there in the comments. Check out the different ones we have. X. We're on TikTok right now, YouTube, and again, also on Cameo as well. And also consider, looking up and making perhaps a donation to Mania Club. We support Connor's Cure along with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, fighting with under the support of Connor McCulloch. Man, I can never say his last name, McCulloch. Ultimately, we raised over $40,000 last year towards the cause, so we have our special 40 for 40 patch on our Mania Club jerseys. Real excited, real proud of that moment. We definitely did our part, but we're always looking to do more. So consider, even if it's just a couple of dollars, that could be the difference between a kid getting to spend, one more day with his family versus not. We all understand, we all have lives, we all have businesses, we all have jobs, we all have things to do, but it takes 2 minutes to possibly make a lifetime of difference in somebody else's life, especially someone like a young man or a young lady who didn't get dealt this, who didn't feel it was fair to get dealt this hand. So either way, before we get sappy, let's move to the other title that changed hands and the one that we can do something about, and it's pretty much our new staple on our show, and that is the Women's WWE Tag Team Championships. Of all the championships we have, short of the 24/7 since we started the show, this has been the one that has appeared far and away the most of any of our title belts up to this point. It seems like every time we have a show, we have a new set of champions on this one, and this episode will be no exception, as we do have new World Tag Team Champions. And in the same manner that Trick Williams lost his NXT Championship, the former champions, which were Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, ultimately lost their titles without being involved in the decision, as they ended up losing in a triple threat match at Clash at the Castle that also involved the other two teams, which were Shayna Baszler and Zoey Stark, and the now new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, the Unholy Union of Alba, Fyre, and Isla Dawn. Now, they've been previous champions before. They've been yeah, I know, I like them too. But ultimately, they have been the NXT Tag Team Champions before. Infamously, they were the last NXT Champions, as they ultimately would lose to the team of Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey to unify the championships. Alyssa with the skulls down in the bottom. Thank you so much for that. But she's right on that. Went the wrong way with that one. They did not need to go that direction with that one, and I think that's almost unanimously agreed. Even hardcore Shayna fans did not like the direction they went with that.
Nope.
But ultimately, they do eventually go back to winning gold. I think a lot of people speculated that it's just because of the location, and they're starting to catch a little bit of you-know-what now, because they've only had one match since winning the tag team gold, and it's now been over a month. And this was one of the biggest gripes that most people had about the women's tag team division, dating all the way back to when we had the walkout from a few years ago with Sasha and Naomi, because they feel that the titles are not being utilized properly. So if you're not going to have Alba and Isla consistently on, then why are they holding the gold when you had Bianca and Jade holding the championship gold every single week? Now, a lot of people are speculating that SummerSlam is going to be where they're going to get their rematch. We will see if that happens, because it does remain to be seen if that is going to be the case. I actually have grabbed the wrong box because this is not the one that has the Alba and Isla plates on it. These have some generics, so I'm going to see if I can go locate those real quick. So I am going to put us on a brief pause, and I will be right back. All right, so I learned two things. One, check your plates before you come into the show. And two, the microphone still works even if you're on pause. So I learned something today. Even, the infamous IT guy, we're making $100K a year, still learning things every single day. That's good Mountain Dew. But now we've got the right one set. Kia has jumped into the comments down below. Hello, honey. So now we've got Alyssa and Kia both throwing all kinds of fun comments in there, but I'm curious to get their thoughts, as well as anyone else who jumps into our chat. But we finally do have their plates in our possession. They are the same ones that they had with the NXT tag team titles, only now in round plates instead of the square ones. So there's Alba Fyre with the nice little Fyre decal in the back, and then Isla Dawn's uses her whatever font that is, I suppose, just straight across her belt. Nothing overly spectacular, but ultimately, both of them getting an opportunity not just to win the championships, but also to win them in their home country. So that whether you're a fan of the particular move or not, it's still a big moment for both of them to do it. We hate that it had to come at the expense of the former champs. So one last look at their plates on here. There's Bianca Belair winning her side, and then you've got Jade Cargill's on the other side. I have a feeling, that we may be seeing both of these plates again. Maybe not necessarily on this belt, but definitely on other plates in the future. We already know what a star Bianca Belair is. She's got first ballot Hall of Fame credentials already, with still so much career still left in front of her. And then you look at someone like Jade Cargill, who despite her youth is getting better every single week and is already making out to look like a complete star within the wrestling community. She is well loved and well respected amongst her peers, despite being so relatively young. So, yes, we are, in the age of fantastic black wrestling. For Kia throwing her comment in there, yes, Racetrac is sponsoring us today. We did mention that earlier, and hopefully they will continue to give us free stuff. The stormiest greatness. I love it. But we are, I just feel like, it's the same thing that, anybody else would say. And, this is where we want people to, throw their thoughts in the comments section. If the titles are not going to be utilized, then why are we just doing this generic title change just for the sake of just getting an international pop? I just realized I was supposed to be putting the things at the bottom. So that was supposed to be there when I talked about Kelani. That was supposed to be there when I talked about Ethan Page. And now we can put this one up here. So go figure. Once again, too many things for me to have to contend with. It's not as easy as it looks. But ultimately, the plates come off of our Championship belts. So we have Jade and Bianca. Again, don't feel by any stretch of the definition that these are going to be the last times that we see these particular ones. So fully expect that we're going to be seeing these on Plate Exchange yet again. And now we will go ahead and switch on the new plates. If you're going to say it right. It's hashtag KelaniGuy. But hey, when I went through the Kelani section, I did just fine. So, you know, she'll be proud of me. I just slipped on the others.
Yep.
Get nervous when I think about Bianca and Jade, you know, so what are you going to do?
Oh, Lord.
Just a poor boy. But either way, you know, that's what I want to have everybody put in the comments, you know. Again, if you're watching this later on YouTube, go for it in the comment section below. But, you know, the entire reason why we had the infamous walkout from a few years ago was because of the fact that the titles not being properly utilized. Now, all of a sudden, you've put them on a new set of champions, and I think a lot of people feel that this was a move that needed to be done because of how, for lack of a better term, dirty that Isla and Alba were done by when they had to unify the titles over to Ronda and Shayna. But at the end of the day, you know, the decision was made, and now you look at them holding the titles, and after a month, they've had one match as champions. Not even, and you barely see them backstage anymore. It almost gives off the vibe that they're more interested in building up the division, which is fine, but did that require a title change in order for that to happen? So, you know, and don't, you know, before anybody comes, you know, shooting at me in the comments, you know, I like Alba and Isla. I like Bianca and Jade. I thought both of them were favorable teams. I said on Top Rope Spoiler, excuse me, on the time before the show, like anyone but Shayna and Zoey. But at the end of the day, you know, I want, you know, the titles, all titles really, not just this one in particular, to be ones that are going to be properly defended and properly shown. If you're going to be viewed as a champion, make sure that it's known. That's something that NXT does very, very well. You saw that even though Ethan Page defended the NXT Championship last night on NXT, he wasn't the main event. It was Obafemi and the North American Championship, while also building up, you know, Duke Hudson and Chase U. They also have had good backstage segments with Kelani Jordan and holding her mid-card title, and they also are actively having different stories with the Heritage Cup. So NXT does a really good job to be able to ultimately make sure that anybody holding gold is involved in a story per se. But that does wrap up our plate exchange. My belt is upside down, so we're going to spin that around. But the plates are right side up, so good for me. But there are the new title plates for Alba Fyre and Isla Dawn, sporting our women's tag team titles. But, you know, I fully expect that they're going to find their way onto the SummerSlam card, or they might be on the SmackDown directly before or something. But, you know, you feel like with the star power that you have with Bianca Belair and with Jade Cargill, and you also look at, you know, you look at the new challengers that are getting ready to come in. They're building up this group with Shayna and Zoey now teaming up with the returning Sonya Deville, Caden Carter and Katana Chance, former champions themselves, also now getting the likeness of Lyra Valkyria in their corner. So you've got a lot of valid teams that could be able to make a run at the women's tag team titles. So it's not like the star power isn't there. You just got to make sure you tell the right story. And right now, I just feel like, in my personal opinion, it's a little lacking. But, you know, we're approaching SummerSlam. Obviously, the main stories are about the three people in the World Heavyweight title picture, that being Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. And, of course, the subsequent championship match that came because of all that chaos between the King of the Ring, Gunther, and the current champion, El Campeon, Damian Priest, who has now become a very likable World Heavyweight Champion from where he started at the beginning of his time with Judgment Day. But then you also have this little love triangle that's going on with Rhea Ripley, Dominic Mysterio, and the Women's World Champion, Liv Morgan, leading to ultimately Liv and Rhea officially setting up their match for SummerSlam here in a couple of weeks. We'll be there live in Cleveland. So definitely make sure to be watching out for us amongst other Mania Club members. We're going to be at the show, or the pre-show with Mania Club ahead of time, so we're going to try not to have too many libations, as adult libations, as Cody and Jay would say. You know. Yeet. Hoo! There you go. But either way, you know, but that wraps up Plate Exchange. I've gabbed on for half an hour and, you know, ultimately needed to do it. But, you know, you guys are the reason why we continue to keep doing this. Give us 20 minutes or so, probably around the top of the hour. We're going to kick off again. And this one will be Pour the Tea with Alyssa and Kia. So, you know, we appreciate everybody who jumped in, the likes, the comments. Yes, Kia and Alyssa down in the comments also throwing in their jokes, funny on and off camera, as they say. So this is Steve with On the Ring Apron Plate Exchange, sporting the Dominic stash. Going to try to do it justice. Again, I asked at the very beginning, does it need to stay? Does it need to go? What do you think? The top of my head is not allowed for conversation. That's staying. But I will at least take suggestions on the stash. No Hitler jokes, please. But either way, y'all have yourself a good night. That's most of the talking for me. I'll throw in a comment here and there. And we'll see you in about 20 minutes for Pour the Tea. If you're watching this later on YouTube, just, you know, click the button over there and find the episode. And enjoy. But either way, y'all have a good night. Hey, that's your line. That's not mine.
I know, but I made that. So.